All right, hello. Today is Tuesday the 31st, the last day of 2019. And in this morning videos, I posted a little bearish scenario. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you a study that I've been watching for a long time, okay? This is a trend line study. So I'm going to use the ray tool and I'm going to use the magnet mode. So that helps me get right to the right point of these trend lines. I'm going to draw a nice pink color. Why not? We love good pink. So now the rule for a trend line is simply this. If you have an M structure or you have a W structure, because we talk a lot about M's and W's, this trend line from the bottom, from these two bottoms, is only valid if this line is broken in market structure, i.e. the W is complete. However, if you have a structure like this type of W, right, or like this, and then it comes down or does whatever, and it doesn't break this line here, it stays below it, then this is not a correct trend line, right? So let's go back. So let's see where we have a non-valid trend line, just so you can see as an example. Didn't prepare this. Okay, so we won't talk about a non-valid trend line, but there is another valid trend line here, because remember we said we had this big M right here, this big M. Well, first of all, you got this M, fine, but you have another M like this big M right here, right? And did it break? Not yet. Broke. Okay, so now that M has been broken, therefore this trend line is valid. So let's draw that exactly the way it appears. It's from this high, that's one side of the M, to here. Okay, so now we've got two trend lines here, and this is going to play very importantly. Now we're going to go back in time a little bit. I'm going to take you to a really cool trend line that most people don't remember. So here is a trend line. Here is a nice market structure M, broken, right? So valid trend from here to here. Okay, now let's go back, and we will draw this trend line here. Okay, so there's that trend line right there. Look at this. Very dangerous. Okay, so that's that trend line there. And we have one more trend line that we're going to draw from the bottom here. I really like this trend line, and I will show you. It is the W in price. Down, up, down, didn't break yet, and then broke. Okay, so that trend line is broken. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a trend line from the bottom here to the bottom here, or is it this one? Very difficult, but it's more of an art form than a science, so don't worry too much if these aren't spot on. But this gives you a general view of where the market might shift. Okay, so I like this trend line only because it plays into the price at the moment. We could also draw trend lines like this, since this is a valid trend line as well. But as you can see, the trend line kind of disappears off the price chart there, so it's kind of useless to us from there. So what we have is we have this area here now, okay? So what I like to do with these sorts of areas is I like to think that the price is going to move around these sorts of areas, okay? So we got a trend line right over here, from here to here, okay? But that's a much shorter time frame. So what I'm starting to think is that this trend line right over here, this one, I'm going to draw it in blue, why not? And this trend line right here, bullish and bearish trend lines here, so I'm going to draw those two in blue, because we've already sort of come away from this purple trend line, right? We came up and we tested it, we came down below it, we played around it, we went above it, we tested it on the other side, tested it on this side, and then we kind of went away. Now, when you break out of a trend line, you only want to take the trade in the direction of wherever it's going once it's put in market structure after the trend line, right? So for example, it's come down. Here is where it confirmed the trend line, right over here, because it put in this market structure, confirmed the trend line here, and then it kept going. So it's still on the other side of the trend line. Did it put in market? And then it came to the other side of the trend line here, went on the other side of the trend line, but it didn't put in market structure. Okay, market structure is a W or an M. Okay, so then it came down below the trend line, played around it, and broke above the trend line again. Did it put in a W? No, it put in an M. So that means we know it's going to go down. So that's what it did. And then it came and played with the trend line again. And oh, now it's on the other side of the trend line. And douche, it came and made a big fat pump. We all remember that one. But it still didn't put in market structure. So it put in an M here, didn't put in a W, put in an M. So we know that it's bearish. Even though it's on the other side of the trend line, we can assume that it's going to come down. So that's what it did. Okay, so I'll go back, 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 back. Or I'll just delete these because I'm trying to show you that we've sort of escaped away from this purple trend line at the moment, this purple one right over here. We've kind of escaped away from it. As you can see, we've run away. What we are playing with is this blue trend line. We tagged it here. This was a tag, this was a tag, this was a tag, and we're sort of getting close to playing with it here. And we are currently playing on this trend line right here, all the way from all that time ago. Okay, so that's very important as well. And what I think is that and if you look really closely, right over here, you can see that we tagged this trend line right over here. And then we tagged it again. If you look really, really closely, the market did actually play around this trend line. The only bearish the candle in this whole run-up was just a retest of that trend line, and then it rallied back up. So you can see the importance of that trend line. Oh, where am I going here? I don't know what I'm doing. You can see the importance of that trend line in the past, and here we are. Now we're on the other side of this trend line, and we put in an M structure. So again, we assume down, and now we're below this trend line, and we're still putting in M's, right? So it's still very bearish. But if we were to come up and test this blue trend line and this purple trend line, it's acting as strong support. So I feel like down is the only way. Okay, now the trend line that I'm excited about is this blue trend line right here, right? Because it's the bullish trend line. We haven't broken below it. We haven't even got close to it yet. And all I think is that we're going to come down to this trend line, and then we're going to play around here, right? And if we finally break out of this blue trend line and make market structure on the other side, it would happen using the support of this trend line right here. And if you put on things like fib retracements from the bottom over here, you can see this lines up perfectly with 78.6. So it just seems too perfect. And I reckon in like 5-10 years or something, when we look back at this, it's just going to be so obvious that this is the case. What I like to do most of all is to look at trend line crosses. So who can see a trend line cross right here on the chart? Okay, I'm going to draw it right here in a nice fancy box. This is the big trend line cross that I'm predicting. So let me put that in purple. Okay, so here is a nice trend line cross. It's a trend line cross of this M, this big M, right? And this W here. And if you look at this trend line cross, there's another one over here. This is a trend line cross as well. Over here. This is technically a trend line cross as well, but we've passed that time. And we got a trend line cross right over here, which is where we're currently at. So that's why I wouldn't sort of be surprised if we take a little stab up into this cross. But since we're passing it already, I also wouldn't be surprised if we came down and played along this cross. And I wouldn't be surprised if we played around this blue line, came up and hit this purple line, came down and hit the blue line, blah, 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 until we hit this cross and then rallied up. I wouldn't be surprised with any of these because I'm looking for these crosses. These trend line crosses are some of the most powerful crosses you'll ever see. So I hope this is sort of a helpful idea. And again, if we do come up, and this is a big if we do come up and break above this trend line and put in this inverse head and shoulders thing, and then play along the other side of this purple trend line, and then put in market structure. Remember, market structure on the other side of the trend line, that's when you take the trade. So if we put that in over here, right, then yes, of course, we can come and make that retrace to 50%, and then perhaps break down and come to this trend line from the other side, right? So I do think we're going to visit this cross right here at around 6,000. It's just a question of, are we going to break up into the halvening and come back down, or are we going to break down into the halvening and come back up through this trend line, right? So that's a lot of mess on the chart. So I'm going to clear that all up and leave you with a big Happy New Year smiley face. This is Josh Morris. Enjoy the Bitcoin price. Go spend some time with some family and friends and have some fun. And try not to trade too much on the New Year's. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Have an awesome day.